The first book I read in 2018 was this one. Ooh. This one. Called Ante, Christa, which is written in French by a Belgian author called Amélie Nothomb. She's very popular as far as I can tell. I don't know how many people in the English-speaking world really know about her. I imagine she's still quite niche, but in the French-speaking world, I think she's super, super popular. So I figured that was a good place to start with my wanting to read more books in French. So that's what I did last year, and this is the third book now that I've read from her. They're all really small. This one is about 150 pages, which I find to be a really good length because it's not so long that I feel bored and like, okay, this is just hard work. But it's not so short that I don't feel like I've accomplished anything by the end of it. So I guess starting from a language standpoint, I found it a really good level for me, even though like I still have to check the dictionary every so often, some pages more than others, but I would say I'm around a B2-ish level, and reading is one of my strengths in French, which has, I would say that's become more so the case in the last year or two. Previously, my biggest strength by a long shot was writing. And I guess because you have time to pore over things and look through the rules for stuff and like look at like re-go over your spelling and your grammar and all of that stuff, and I'm very much a like dwelling on things kind of person, so it comes very naturally to me to like go slowly through writing and that kind of thing. But I thought one of the other easy things to practice in language learning is obviously reading. So I would recommend this kind of book, like Amélie Nothomb's work, to people who are around a B2 level, like me. I think you'd be able to really take advantage of the experience, I suppose. So, on to the actual story. So, this is basically a story about toxic female friendship and power dynamics and how to, I don't want to say how to win against that kind of toxicity, but it does kind of discuss, I guess, the psychology of these kinds of interactions and stuff. The main character, as her name suggests, Blanche, is a very blank kind of feeling character. Like, she clearly has a personality and her own thoughts and likes and dislikes and that kind of thing. She's very a thing, but at the same time she's very impressionable and she's very sort of blank, and she's very she's a pushover in a lot of ways, and she's very needy in a lot of ways, but not in a grovelly kind of way, just in a like, please come talk to me kind of way, which, although I'm not exactly like that, I feel like as an introvert, there is kind of an understanding of a lot of the things that she talks about, wanting to just read, for example, rather than just gossip about what other people are doing, those kinds of things, which is, I mean, like, that's not an introvert versus extrovert kind of thing, but you know what I mean. So anyway, Blanche is living her life. She is 16 and starts university early at 16. And there's another 16-year-old who has also started university early, Christa. She befriends, or I should say Christa befriends her, sort of, right away, pretty much, and is introduced to Blanche's family, and they get on the initial meeting, like when her mum initially meets Christa, it's kind of like very shocking. She doesn't know what to do, and Christa immediately, you see her take control of the situation, and from then I feel like that tells you kind of how a lot of the rest of these things are going to go. Christa is kind of the I guess the typical sort of mean girl, frenemy thing that people talk about to do with girl friendships or friendships. I feel like that's probably something that guys have to deal with as well in a different way, but this is specifically dealing with these two young girls in university, and I guess we also get to see very different personality types deal with the same situation. So they're both flung into the world of adults, and you get to see how they each react to that, how they react to attention, control or loss of control in different situations, that kind of thing. So Christa starts to basically take over Blanche's life, and you don't really know how Blanche is gonna bring it back, or if she will. And I feel like Amélie Nothomb's really good at leading you through until pretty much the very end, when there are suddenly a lot of twists and turns, not necessarily super dramatic ones, although there's a little bit in this, I suppose, and they don't feel super out of character or odd or anything like that, but they also don't feel necessarily obvious, so it makes the story quite fun. And overall, I found the story really fun. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone who's learning French and is at a B2 or above level in reading.